Parasol Geek. Je suis Miguel.
Je suis Suzy, and if you're confused by the French, no problem. We're just joking around.
Yes, this is just us clowning around. It is Parasol Geek, so
That's true.
you
That's
figured.
true.
So, welcome to another, well, I don't know if it's exciting, but an exciting episode of Parasol Geek, in which I'm
If you
going
like comics and you like art, it's exciting.
Okay, I guess.
We're gonna watch you
Yes, me.
ink an illustration from our all ages comedy, Wolf Boy and the Magical Warriors.
Yes, get to see me ink and talk about the inking and all that wonderful stuff.
That's right.
So, it's time for you to get your geek on. Welcome to NPR. All things considered. Just kidding.
Of course, our international audience would have no idea what NPR is.
Yes, those Americans would know.
Yes. This is you inking an
Yes.
illustration from Wolf Boy and the Magical Warriors.
Yes. Well, it was originally going to be the cover, but...
It was going to be the cover, but Miguel is a very hard worker. And it's something I admire in you as he shakes his head.
No.
That even when something is really good, you'll say, expletive, I'm going to do better.
Yeah, that's...
And something will bother you and you'll do it even better. And I have to say,
That's called being anal retentive.
it is anal retentive, but damn, it makes for some good artwork.
Oh, I'm glad you think so.
Yeah. And this, you'll see by the end. So the process is scan in your pencils. You do the pencils old school, piece
Yep.
of paper, pencil.
Yep.
Scan them in, ink them in the program,
Mm-hmm.
Manga Studio,
Mm-hmm.
now called,
Clip Studio Paint.
and then you ink it. And it's a really great program. We've mentioned it before. I'll have links to a previous tutorial we did using Manga Studio or Clip.
Studio Paint.
Thank you.
Yes. No smudging, too.
Yeah, that's the nice thing. So, classical, digital inking, whatever floats your boat, whatever you prefer. But,
I like to say, whatever's your weapon of choice.
that's nice as well. Digital inks, the advantages are very black inks. You don't have any variation in color. It's nice and smooth. There's no mess. You get to turn the page as you're doing, and just like you would with regular paper. And you get to correct and undo.
Yes, correct and do. I actually edit, too, because right now on my pencils, if you notice up at the top of the head of Monkey, I actually, the head was a little flat on one side, so I managed to pop it out a little bit. And you see
That's true with traditional as well. Inkers always
Yeah.
kind of make corrections to the pencils.
But then you have a lot of white, and that's not fun.
Oh, I see what you mean. You have to white it out with paint as opposed
Yeah.
to erase or undo. Yeah, okay, good point.
Yeah, Control Z. Control Z is your friend.
And by the way, if you think he inks incredibly fast, I sped this up like double time.
Wow.
Yeah. So look at you. Look how efficient you are.
Yeah, wow.
Damn,
I
look at
only
that.
wish.
Yeah.
Except my hand would be like a permanent claw.
The claw.
The claw.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's not good.
And which, you like the mapping pen?
Yep.
And is there a certain thickness or anything like that you prefer?
For Wolf Boy, I tend to prefer like a thicker one. So right now you're looking at 1.7. The more cartoon style, I tend to like it to be in like a nice thick line.
Okay.
If I was using for Past Due,
Which is another
the
comic
super,
we have.
yeah, when it's more like
That's
in the
more
present
teen
time.
adult. This Wolf Boy, as we mentioned before, is an all ages comedy. Mm-hmm. And so for more serious things, you like a bit of a thinner pen.
Yes, I like
Okay.
a bit of a thinner pen. It's just that I kind of find that the thick line kind of lends itself to being a little bit more kiddish, and it's fun.
And it's fun.
Yeah.
And I remember you mentioned before that you really like, in this program, you have the ability to select the size of the pen, just like you would if you went to an art store and you
Yes.
were buying a pen.
Yep.
It's not how many pixels or
Yeah.
what does Photoshop use again, whatever. they're
Pixels.
So
Pixels.
this one is, I like a 2 point, I like a 1.5, I like a
I've
1.7.
never had a pencil that told me how many pixels it was. So, But then again, people, you have to understand that Photoshop itself was originally just intended for photos.
True.
All of us artists just ended up making it do all these sort of things that it shouldn't have been for.
And
it's
pretend artists
and
like me.
pretend, yeah. Well, no, you're not pretend. You do wonderful things.
Sure she does, yeah.
No, I had to sort of stop it. I had to do the ums.
Something
So what
happened.
I was thinking was, oh yeah, I was trying to play with the tilt. I didn't really like how it was going. So I was trying to play around with how can I make it more thin to thick. It was bothering me.
And how do you do that?
There's
it-
usually two selection, like a selection.
So
thing
you
can
choose the brush size,
You could choose
and you choose an
the exit point
anti-alias.
to the entry point, how thick it will be to how thin it will be.
And is that anti-alias over there?
Anti-alias is just something entirely different.
Oh,
It
okay,
has
I'm
nothing to do
sorry.
with that.
So how do you select the thickness when you begin and when you end, or vice versa?
Well, you have the thickness of the pen, which you see here under brush size mapping point. And then if you go up to where you see the actual, which shows you the stroke on the tools.
Oh, I see.
There's a
All
little
right.
looks like a, sort of like, what would you say, wrench or something? I mean, if you click
It gives
on
you a
that,
bit of a
can-
preview.
gives you a bit of a preview, but if
Okay.
you click on it, then you can fidget with it as much as you want. But
Okay.
generally speaking, I'm just
What do you
I'm just
like? Do you like
thinking.
thin to thick or thick to thin?
I like thin to thin, so it's thick in
Oh,
the
okay.
middle.
Oh, all right. So you start with a thin line, it gets thicker in the center, and then it
It gets this
gets
nice little
thinner again
point
when
at
you're
the end.
finished.
Yeah.
I get you.
So it gives it
Yeah,
a
yeah, I
nice
do
little
see
point.
that. Okay, so it's thicker in the center. So it's both pressure sensitive and
Yes.
you can select that
Because
quality.
in this way, you get this sort of really neat, sort of, for me anyway, this really unique sort of neat way where it almost looks a little bit more 3D-ish. Mm-hmm. It's just right on the line. Because usually the thicker lines that are closer and the thinner lines are further away.
No, it's lovely. And in Photoshop, you can't do that. You
I
have
mean,
the
you
brush
can-
with the pressure point, but it's not the same thing.
You can do it, you can emulate it, but you really have to know what you're doing when you're programming your brush. And really, I don't have the time for that. I just want to get stuff done.
No, it makes it much cleaner. Like after we've printed books and it's just a much better program for the inking.
It's interesting because the first part of Wolf Boy, first part of Wolf Boy is inked by hand.
Ah, yes, the first few pages.
First few pages are inked by hand.
I guess we could say his
First-
backstory.
Yeah, his backstory. Full 20 pages are inked by hand. And just the difference between inking by hand and this is kind of funny.
It appears so much more clean and crisp when you print.
Yes. See, a lot of times too, I don't like box. The only time I would like box, like taking a drawing and then cleaning it up before I scan it, would only be if I wasn't going to ink it. And even now, I don't really do that all that much unless I'm doing something specific.
Yeah, you don't like box.
I used to like box a
Yeah.
lot, but if you're gonna ink it anyway, you're gonna make it 10 times stiffer, in my view, because you're correcting, editing, and then you're doing it again. So my attitude has always been, just do the editing with the inking, and save yourself a lot of time.
Okay.
So, but Lightbox has its purposes, like I said.
Well, everyone
It's a
has
weapon
their
of choice.
own. Yeah, exactly. Everyone has their own method of doing things. It's just you found that it was a step you didn't really need. And
And you'll see right here, like the thumb that I just did for Alric,
Mm-hmm.
how flat it was. I realized that it was too flat, so I corrected it to kind of curve it out a little bit, to kind of give it a little
a little
bit
more dynamic.
Yes.
It's funny, even something as small as a thumb or a toe.
In many
Suddenly, it's like pop.
many ways, to me, once you get to the inking stage, it's like accounting. And I'll explain what I
That
mean by
sounds
that.
not fun at all.
Yeah, it doesn't sound fun.
Good
But
Lord.
little things do matter. And if you change little things enough, by the time you finish the drawing, you can give it more pop. If you overlook little things and you just keep sliding by the end of it, it's not, my feeling is it won't be as good as it should be. So, and that's why you'll see me like undo a lot. Because what I'm doing is I'm saying to myself, okay, that doesn't look good. Get rid of it. Like you just saw, I just put the eyelid. I didn't need the eyelid. Actually, it looks cuter without the eyelid at the top of.
Yeah, when things are funny or cute, it's less is more.
Yes.
But when you try to do funny with too many lines, and by you I mean anybody, not just you, you really see it's you can't do that. You know, it takes away from it. You need the exaggerated expression.
Yeah, and I recently, from reading 20th Century Boys and 21st Century Boys.
Ooh, we should talk about that for an episode.
Yes, I learned that even for Sirius too, to capture expression in Sirius, I mean, he is a master of minimalism, and it doesn't even look like he's doing minimalism, but he really is.
Urasawa Naki?
Yeah, Naoki. Yeah, Naoki Urasawa.
Well, I said it the Japanese way.
Yes, you
last
did.
name first.
So,
which we have a video on that too, from when we went to Angoulême.
Yes.
So I'll put a link to that as well.
Yeah, it's a wonderful series. Very inspiring. It's a good reminder that gesture is very important. So here I am fixing the arm. Very fussy, as you can tell.
But it's good because you can see the process. I mean, the pencils look great, but you can really focus, I guess, like you said, like accounting.
It's like accounting.
It's editing.
Go through everything with the fine-tooth comb.
You're going through everything with a fine-tooth comb. And making corrections, making it better, making improvements.
Like drawing in the fish head that wasn't really there.
Yeah, and it's nice that you get to do this yourself. I mean, Marvel or DC, they have different inkers. And,
yeah.
It's sort of like an editor. An editor of a film could change the director's movie depending on how he edits it. And same with inking. It could really change the drawing underneath.
From what I heard from friends and who've worked in the industry working for those big companies, or just in general, I've heard that, a lot of guys do really tight pencils because of that, because they want to make sure that the inker keeps everything that they wanted. I just think if you know yourself and you know where you went wrong, you have a chance to correct it. For myself, but I know that that's not conducive for a big
assembly line.
Yeah,
large.
It's not really meant for that. It could really slow things down. Again, weapon of choice, and it all depends on what you're working on and who you're working for.
Yeah.
So you see here, I pop it down, I'm looking, getting rid of the pen tilt, and choose against it. I just go right back.
All right. And there you go.
Yes, gave a little things.
Extra oomph on the toenail.
Little things matter. Little things matter.
And we're almost at the end here.
I love inking wood.
Why?
I don't know, there's something fun about something so organic, like the wood grain and stuff.
You don't need a ruler. And
yes.
It still looks great. That's what you like about it. No rulers.
No rulers. Although I have to say, I don't mind rulers in the computer. It could be far worse. I'd have to do them by hand. Then I'd really hate them.
So, rulers in program are better than real life?
Yes.
Okay. So there we go. There's Wolf Boy, Monkey King, and Tessie the Amazon. Hanging on for dear life on that little wee piece of wood.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
And again, for free samples, there's links provided in the description.
And don't forget to subscribe. Hit that little bell there for the
alerts.
Alerts. Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.
Yes. Get your geek on.